Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I'm sorry, boys. I have to tell you something that will make you sad. He swallowed hard, then continued. I'm the only one who will be moving to my new job. You will stay here with your mother. I'm not going to live with you anymore. I felt tears running down my cheeks. I just can't stay. I fell in love with someone else and I don't love your mother anymore. I'm so sorry. It immediately dawned on me. Our lives will change. Despite the tears, I realized that nothing in our lives will be the same. My little brother screamed, No, you can't. Tell him, Mom, he can't leave. He rushed to her and jumped into her lap. She hugged him protectively as her own tears began to flow freely and drip onto his hair. He was sobbing loudly now. Why are you leaving? Don't you love us anymore? He was his dad's son, a piece of the past. It's not about you. I will always love you boys. I saw that he was upset, but as a man he did not show his emotions, just looked between us until the situation reached us while we reacted, each in our own way. Mom's eyes were glued to mine. She was waiting for something from me. I was too young to know what to do for her, but old enough to understand that I had to do or say something. But what? Tears were dripping from my chin, and I looked from my mother to the man who, a few minutes ago, was my father. I needed to step in, protect my mom. She needed me. He didn't love. How could he not love her? She was our mother. She always surrounded us with her love, showed it to him and us, every minute of every day. I saw how much she was hurt. She loved him so much, it was obvious. How could he just leave her like that? Throw her aside for what? Who was the other one that he now says he loves? Whether I cared about it is not entirely clear. I will answer this question some other day. He couldn't hold my gaze when I looked at him. He looked down, unable to meet my determined gaze. Then I got up from the couch and stood next to my mother and brother. Now they were my family. You'd better leave. My voice sounded strange, steady, determined. He opened his mouth to say something, no doubt some kind of banality, something to calm his conscience. I cut him off. Go away. Leave us alone. We don't need you. Of course, I didn't want this. I was angry, offended, scared, and upset that a man I had admired all my life could do this to us, in particular to my mother. With a woman he married, for better or worse. A man who, as far as I know, loved the very land he walked on. I felt her sob as I put my hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of you. She took my hand in hers and we all cried together. We didn't see him leave, we just heard the door close and he disappeared. As it turned out, that was the last time I saw him for 25 years. I was 12 years old, the age when a boy needs a father to guide his transformation into a man. Now I have to do it alone. It's strange how the mind works. The way Mom looked at me told me so much. She needed me to step forward. I had to do it to help her. Mom was wonderful. She had to work full-time to support us, to be both mom and dad to us. I tried. I really tried, but what could I do? Well, the only thing I did was make a promise to myself that I would never do what he did. As I got older, my resolve became firmer. Mom told me that bed was the root cause of our struggle, our pain, our new life. She found out about his latest betrayal, did not accept either this or his promise to remain faithful in the future if she allowed him to stay. She forced him to leave with terrible consequences for us. He never came to us, completely cut us out of his life. When I realized what bed activity was, I couldn't understand how such a natural process could be so destructive. The few moments of time that a man and a woman share can cause such devastation. I promised myself that this would not define me. It will never wreak such havoc in my life, not again. I will be faithful and I will not destroy my family because of making love, never. Despite what happened to my family, I never doubted that I would find love. Someone like my mom. A woman with a strong character, determined, independent, who will love me and take care of me and our children. But I will not be like my mother. I will be realistic. My wife will be my equal partner, with me because she wants it. I wouldn't make any demands on her, whoever she is. She would have stayed, no matter what temptations or hobbies. She would have stayed because she wanted to, because she would have loved me and the children we could have had. It was in my last year of university that I met and fell in love with Linda. She was perfect for me, bright, stunningly attractive, funny, and, as I soon found out, very good in bed. Before we met, we both had other lovers, but we agreed that we didn't experience anything like what we had between us. We just suited each other. She was smart, independent, and of course, knew her job. My ideal woman. After lunch, I was reading the newspaper when she appeared, dressed and made up the same way as the previous week, when she was going to work. I innocently asked, "I thought you retired." "Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't I say my special skills are still needed? So my services have been saved for 1 day a week. Oh, and I can travel sometimes." She smiled sweetly and walked past me. "I have to go. Don't worry, I'll be back soon. It's just business." She didn't wait for me to speak again, headed for the door and disappeared. What? It was unexpected. Did I hear correctly what my wife had just said? I was sure that she had retired, sold the business that she partially owned, to start a new chapter in our lives. That's what she said would happen as soon as she completes the sale. Of course, she was at home all week, pampering us with all the little things that we had missed in all her years of work. And now this. I was confused. Linda joined the company for a 1-year internship as part of a business management course. And after graduating, she switched to a full-time position. The managing partners, Brother Grant and his sister Natalie, spoke well of her, so they paid her a fee for her last year of study. We got married shortly after graduating from university, and 18 months later, our first child, Sophie, was conceived. But Linda provided for everything and continued to work from the office that her company had equipped in our house. Most of all, I was struck by her ability to divide her life into parts. She took everything for granted, balancing work, childbirth, housekeeping, and making me happy and contented. Her job paid well even when she was working from home, so we hired an au pair to help with the next child, Aaron. Ella lived in a separate apartment above our garage. She stayed to help Linda when she became the happy mother of our healthy girl. Linda wanted to return to the office after Sophie was born, so we decided that 2 children were enough for us, and in order not to interrupt her career, we agreed that I would have a vasectomy. After returning to the office, Linda's career, of course, took off. 6 months later, she was promoted to a senior position. However, at home, we did not see any changes. Everything was as usual, standard work from 9 to 17. I admired her for being able to leave her job at the office. She clearly loved her job and got along well with other employees, but at home, she was 100% ours. We discussed our days as everyone does. We talked about our colleagues and their lives, shared something unusual or interesting. If they signed a major contract, it was the norm for Linda to attend a festive dinner and go dancing with the team. I was never invited. It was for employees only, but it was the same for everyone, so I didn't mind. Linda was always at home at the specified time, and she never had a messy hairstyle. For my part, I was making good progress at work, so it was not difficult to leave Ella as an au pair. She provided invaluable assistance during the day. We took turns as soon as one of us returned home on a weekday evening, and then we were fully engaged with the children every weekend. When Linda and I were at home, Ella could live her own life, and we rarely saw her once she handed over the reins to us. Life was good. We were a happy and contented family. We had the usual trials and difficulties, of course, like all other young families. But we were a close-knit team. We respected each other and had fun, had a lot of fun. The children didn't need anything, and I don't mean material things. In this regard, we kept them on top. Linda gave them her time and energy while they were awake. When they fell asleep, I was the recipient of my buns, and our personal life remained energetic and abundant. A year after Sophie was born, late on a Friday evening, she called me and said that she had been asked to stay late because Natalie and Grant had to discuss an important issue with her. It was a special management meeting, and she would arrive home a couple of hours later than usual. For me, this was not a problem. Ella cooked a hot meal for the 4 of us, so in order not to waste it, I invited her to join us with the children, and I will make a salad for Linda later. When Linda came home, there was a new aura coming from her. I just felt it. Our eyes met and I saw something. A brief moment of hesitation before she hid it by giving me my usual hello kiss. When she pulled away, everything disappeared, replaced by excitement. They offered me a partnership. I will have shares and all that. Then she paused, looked at me with a smile. But first I have to discuss this with you. I'm hungry, even though you are. I made a salad. You freshen up, and then tell me everything during the meal. As soon as she returned and sat down at the table, she talked about her new role. She would have more responsibilities, some travel that would include occasional overnight stays, much more money and status. It was her dream job. Her new role is all she worked for, and she was preparing for Grant to step down from his post. She had to take over his role and become a co-owner. I felt how excited she was. Everything was going the best for her. Of course I supported her, wanted her to follow her dream, even offered to reduce my work responsibilities in order to be more involved with our children. Ella had almost finished her studies and was due to leave soon, so when they grow up, I will be the main caregiver for them while Linda works. I agreed to take care of the children and later their after-school clubs, etc. Looking back now, I realized that there was some detail that she didn't tell me about. I saw a brief moment of indecision, but she hid it. But I knew, I felt it. Assuming that if it was important, she would tell me anyway, I put it out of my mind. That night, she was like a tigress in bed, treating me to a sweaty and breathless evening of lovemaking, in which I fully participated. As we lay in the afterglow, I was overcome by a feeling of anxiety. She was thinking about something, about some decision that turned out to be difficult for her. When I looked at her face, she blinked quickly. Then her smile lit up her face, instantly dispelling my fears. It was like this all weekend when she thought she was alone. I saw her confused look. When we had breakfast on Monday morning, I caught a slight worry in her eyes. Again, she blinked her eyes when she noticed me looking at her, then smiled at me and relaxed. Everything was fine. I knew that she would decide whatever was on her mind, make a decision and act on it. I just had to be patient. She would let me know when she was ready. But she didn't do it. I took 2 weeks off from work to help Linda get comfortable with the housework. Now she will be home all day. We had to do some things around the house that were postponed until we had more time together. Therefore, it was strange not to mention that she was retained in the staff of the new company. I started analyzing our conversations. I was sure that I had not been told anything about it. I had a feeling of anxiety, even fear. For the first time in our lives, I was suspicious. I'm not sure exactly why it was in the first place in my thoughts. She didn't give me any of the usual signs. No late nights at the office, no secret phone calls. I didn't see a stash of laundry. I never saw her texting with anyone other than family and friends. She was always in her hotel room if I needed to call when she wasn't home. So why did I come to the conclusion that she was wrong? Although I rarely saw Grant, we often talked with Natalie and her husband Ralph, and I was sure she would have let me know if something was wrong or if she had missed something. Subconsciously, my brain had to pick up on something, a little clue or clues that added up to a single whole. I hope I was wrong. Oh, I don't know. I'll find out more when she gets home. We definitely needed to talk. She hid it well, but I knew, and when she returned home, now that I was looking for clues, I saw the aura that I remembered all those years ago. This required further thought. I needed to find out what she was doing. I was looking for something. Maybe I was wrong. I hadn't noticed anything before. Well, maybe only that long ago evening when she was promoted. But now, as then, my senses were heightened by something unusual, and I hoped I was wrong. It was unexpected. I tried to keep my voice even, calm and not accusatory. You didn't say anything about having to go to work. I got the exact opposite impression when you announced your retirement. Oh, I'm sorry. I was sure I mentioned it. She held my gaze. I couldn't detect any deception. I have to attend the new owner's management meeting every Friday for some time to share my experience. Then maybe visit some of my old clients from time to time just so they don't forget, what it's like. Before I could say anything else, she went into the kitchen. Come on, I'll help prepare food for the table. I'm hungry. That was the end of it. The matter was closed as Linda wanted it. We ate, made plans for the weekend with the children and made love. Quite passionate love. The tigress returned to bed that night. The weekends were like all the ones we spent together. We did family things, ate, laughed, and of course, Linda and I pleasured each other in the bedroom. We decided that our task for this week was to decorate and redecorate our guest bedroom, which we did, working together as always, and everything was as it should be. On Friday, I had to finish a few little things and go to the store for the necessary materials. It's okay, I need to get ready anyway. Don't forget that today is my day to play consultant, Linda replied when I told her where I was going. I'll be back as usual, so if you don't come back before I leave, I'll see you at dinner. I felt my heartbeat quicken. A feeling of anxiety seized me when I heard these words. Of course I expected them, but hearing them actually made me start thinking about negative thoughts again. I pushed them to the back of my mind. The roads were clear and I quickly found the materials I needed and was soon on my way home. Perhaps I would return before Linda left. Although I was in time, I realized that I didn't make it when I saw her car coming out of the intersection ahead. She left earlier than last week. I immediately realized that something was wrong. We were close to her old office, but to get there, she had to head in my direction, and she didn't. There was only a moment left to make a decision. I ignored the turn I was planning to make and followed her. It wasn't difficult because just a few minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of an exclusive apartment building, or rather, an elite apartment. There was no hesitation when she pulled into what must have been a familiar parking space. I watched as she immediately jumped out of the car and walked straight into the entrance. She didn't give me a chance to intercept her, or a chance to find out why she wasn't in the office. I pulled over to the side of the road and decided to call her on her cell phone. "Hi, John, is everything okay?" Her voice was normal as I expected, maybe just a note of concern about why I was calling, but nothing out of the ordinary. "It took me longer than I expected to get the necessary materials, but I'm on my way. I'll see you in a few minutes to kiss you goodbye before leaving." There was only a momentary hesitation. "Oh, that's sweet, but I'm sorry. I was ready faster than I thought, so I'm already at the office. I'm about to come to a meeting." I heard the sound of a door opening and a muffled, "Hi, honey, you're early." It was a brief greeting, but it was enough. I knew that voice. Then Linda interrupted the man's words. "I'm on. There was a short pause, then, "Sorry, I have to go." And that was the end of the call. I tried to call back, but the call went straight to the answering machine. For some reason, at that moment, it seemed to me that someone had kissed her. A feeling of complete disappointment gripped me. Strangely, I thought I would be angry. Maybe it would come later. Now I felt lost, empty, sad. Did I want to confront them? Not very. Maybe there is an innocent explanation for this. Although it is unlikely, I knew it, especially considering the greetings I heard. But I knew that if I saw them together, I would not be able not to admit it. When I returned home, I soon finished installing the materials I had bought at the store, and I had an hour to do what I needed. Linda had some explaining to do, but the more I thought about it, the more confident I was about what the outcome would be, so I needed to be prepared. I had a plan, and I intended to follow it through. I remembered childhood promises to myself. I promised that I would never destroy my family because of making love. It looks like I'm going to have to compromise. Only time will tell if I succeed. The children were in their rooms when Linda arrived. On Friday evening, homework had to be done. When she came up to me for the usual greeting, I stopped her with a question. "Where were you today?" I tried to speak as evenly as possible. "In the office, as I told you when you called. Why?" "Have the new owners moved their headquarters to the Grosvenor Apartments?" Linda's face paled abruptly. What do you mean?" "Well, I called you shortly after I saw you enter the building." I studied her carefully. "And if I'm not mistaken, Grant greeted you with the words, 'Hi, honey, you're early,' imitating him, followed by a kiss. Don't you want to explain?" My wife seemed to shrink back, retreating to the sofa opposite which I was sitting. Her eyes dropped to her hands, which she clutched in her lap. "I'd rather not to explain, of course. It was a mistake. I thought, I won't see him again, I promise." Then she looked into my eyes. "I know how it looks, but I love you. I want you, not him." Tears silently rolled down her cheeks, and I was silent, not taking my eyes off her. Memories of the night my father made his statement raced through my head, the same feelings of utter confusion, anger, disappointment, all mixed up as I tried to process. And again I realized that I needed to say something. But what? We sat and looked at each other for what seemed like an eternity. The sadness I felt was close to overwhelming me, but I had no tears. Did I want to know? Will I be able to fulfill the promise I made to myself a few years ago? Part of me wanted to know the depth of her betrayal. Another part was afraid of what I would find out. But most of all, I was afraid of whether I could handle it. "I'm deeply sorry. She stopped, sobbing, and began to tremble with sobs. "We need to deal with this, decide what will happen next, but maybe not now." Even I could hear the sadness in my voice. Her sobs intensified. "As soon as the children go to bed, we'll talk. I suggest you go and clean yourself up. Pull yourself together and we'll eat. I don't want them to see you like this." I got up. I needed to get away from her. "Please understand that you have to be honest with me if we want to stay." I left her there. There were even more tears. She held out her hands to me. There was a pleading expression on her face. She was looking for at least some sign of hope for us. At that moment, I couldn't give her what she wanted, so I turned away and went to the kitchen. "Dinner's in 5 minutes," is my usual cry to call the kids. It took me 15 minutes to prepare the food for distribution, so hopefully Linda was able to pull herself together. I heard Aaron running down the stairs, which sounded like thunder. He was already sitting down at the table when I heard Sophie and Linda come together. They were talking quietly to each other before they also sat down at the table. We ate as a family, as we had many times before. But there was some kind of atmosphere. I tried very hard, but the sadness inside me did not go away. What will happen to us? How bad was this situation? Perhaps this will be our last dinner together? All these negative thoughts were constantly spinning in my head. I just didn't have the slightest idea anymore. Linda tried to take responsibility by getting the children to tell us about their week, then about our weekend plans, where they need to be taken to sports, etc., etc. In general, everything is like that. It sounded fake to me, but it seemed to work. She put them to bed while I cleaned up the kitchen. I felt rather than saw Linda appear in the doorway. "Can I help you?" She tried to sound positive. Unfortunately, I couldn't reciprocate her feelings, and without looking at her as usual, I grumbled, "No, I'm almost done." By the time I was ready, Linda was already waiting for me in the living room. Sitting down on the sofa, she patted the seat next to her. Where I usually sat, I ignored her and went to the chair. "My children?" It was cruel, intentional. It hurt me, and so did she. Her expression was incredulous. "How can you?" Then a pause. "Yes, I can assure you of that. We are..." "Grant, we started after Sophie. All this time?" "Yes, I'm sorry. I tried my best to keep this separate, my family and my career. He was a job, a business, cold, necessary." To her credit, she was looking at me. The sadness was obvious. Her voice was soft, apologetic. "You are family, love, warmth, my life. I can see how much you're hurting. There's no way you should have known. I was so careful that it didn't affect us, you and me." She covered her face with her hands, running her fingers through her hair to pull it back. "What have I done?" "I'll tell you what you did." My voice rose for the first time. "You betrayed me. Not only me, but yourself, our family, all of us. How could you? Why?" Linda backed away from my tirade. She looked scared. For the first time during our relationship, I saw fear in her eyes, which was so unusual for me. I softened my voice. "I need to know, try to understand, not the intimate details, just the facts, to see if we can overcome this." Her tears started again, silently trickling down her chin. "We have to. Your promise. You promised." As she spoke, the realization of what she was saying dawned on her, so her voice became quieter and slower. "Please, I have never loved him. Never. I am yours. Always have been and always will be. Believe me, I have always been only yours, never his." She must have seen the disbelief on my face, so with a hint of desperation, she added, "With him, it was ambition, work, business, a means to an end, that's all. You have to believe me." "So when did it start?" She covered her face with her hands. Obviously, she didn't want to answer the question. "When?" Wiping away her tears, she said softly, "It was a condition of my partnership. He forced me." "No, he didn't force me. Forced me. Won me over. The price for the chance he gave me, the one I've always worked for." She paused for a few moments. "He just took me, dominated me, overpowered me." Another pause. "I kept it separate, but then I started to like it. I even longed for it. I'm so sorry." "That means at least 12 years. Every day?" "No, not every day, mostly once a week, sometimes more often. The longer it went on, the more I needed it, not him, but what he was doing to my body, what he was making me feel. He's not like you." She turned away, unable to control the fire in my gaze. "What a fool I was. I'm so sorry." While I was digesting her words, she jumped off the couch and knelt down, resting her head and hands on my lap. "You, after all, will not leave me. Please do not leave me. You are my life. Do not leave me because of this. I love you. Always have loved and always will love." "Hush now." Her voice is slow, deliberate, desperate. "I've already said that I won't see him again. I'm serious, I can give it up. I've already given up on him. Please believe me, you have to." "Should I? Then why now? After all, your retirement was a chance to break away from him, but you didn't do it. She raised her head to look at me. You wanted to go to him? You left me here to visit him. I'm sorry, but it seems to me that you chose him. No, she screamed, then quieter. Never, never, not for a second. I choose you, only you, always you, please. You have to believe me. Then why did you go to him now? I do not know. It seems so stupid. My reason was, I don't know. Like I said, he's doing things to me that we haven't done. I haven't given him anything that you and I haven't shared yet. He's just different, not better. You didn't lose anything from it. You got a lot more from me. I love you. But I definitely don't like him. She was silent for a moment, then, he needs me. I'm all he has in life. I thought you wouldn't miss me for a couple of hours, just 2 hours from time to time. When I didn't say anything, she added, It sounds ridiculous, I know. Yes, it's funny. So funny that I can't continue it now. I'm exhausted. I need to think. We need to talk again, but not now, not today. When I got up, she jumped to her feet. An expression of hope appeared on her face, but it dissipated when she saw my expression. She stood in the middle of the living room and waited for me to close the door. She followed me up the stairs, no doubt believing that we would sleep together. However, I moved some of her belongings into the newly decorated guest bedroom. So when I crossed the threshold of our room, I just said, I need some time and space. Your room is at the other end of the corridor. I heard her sigh as I started to close the door, then whisper, No, please, not that. We don't need it. She must have realized that I had already made up my mind. When I closed the door, the last thing I saw was her standing there with a lost, bruised look, shoulders slumped in defeat, a picture of despair. I was fast asleep. It seemed to me that my world had fallen apart, that everything I believed about my marriage was a lie. I knew it perfectly well. Obviously, I was too trusting. I searched my entire brain, looking for signs that I might have missed, but nothing. I didn't see anything. There was only one evening when, as I now know, it started. She was worried, then she seemed peaceful but determined. Maybe I'll ask her about it. Thoughts were spinning in my head about what if, what now, what should I do? Do we have a future? Waking up early, I was preparing to take Aaron to football practice, and then Sophie to dance class. We were having breakfast, and when I heard Linda getting up, my pulse quickened from a feeling of horror. I wasn't ready for this. I needed to behave normally. For the sake of the children, it would be difficult. We've always been such a loving family. Well, I thought so anyway. Good morning, I think I'm a little late. I didn't sleep very well. It was her usual cheerful voice that I loved, but I think I don't have my wife's ability to divide her life into parts, because when her eyes met mine, she stopped in the middle of a sentence. In a low voice, she managed to add, Sorry. Then her voice returned to its usual bright tone. She checked the children and made herself an ordinary bowl of porridge, but I saw that the cheerfulness did not extend to her eyes. There was sadness and wariness. It was barely perceptible, but nevertheless, I saw it. For my part, I did not ignore her, but kept my communication to a minimum. Like her, I focused on the children. I left Linda at the kitchen table when we went to the morning gathering. First, I dropped Aaron off, and then, leaving Sophie with her friends at the dance studio, I settled into a nearby cafe. As usual, I joined several other parents who, like me, decided that this was a better pastime than going home and then running after their precious offspring again. The conversation was light and fun, as it usually happens between like-minded parents, so I was able to put my problem to the back of my mind for a while. Then Sophie and I stood on the sidelines and watched the end of Aaron's football game before heading home. When I drove up to our house, I felt a sadness weighing on my heart as I returned to the reality of Linda's betrayal and its impact on us as a family. As soon as I entered, Linda's eyes showed that she was crying, but she tried her best to hide this and her mood, communicating with the children, who, as usual, told her about what they were doing in their classes. I noticed that she occasionally glanced in my direction, but did not try to make direct contact with me. What we did on Saturday afternoon was different. Today, Linda suggested that she and Sophie go to the mall for girly retail therapy, leaving Aaron and me alone. I was soon left alone when his friends called him, and they went to do what boys his age do. Left alone with my thoughts, I sat and reflected on my predicament. Would I agree with Linda's statement that what she and Grant were doing didn't take anything away from me and our marriage? Does she mean enough to me that I can ignore what she was doing? Is my love for her enough? Is it better for me to live with her, Or at least with the part of her that she didn't share with him? Or will I break my childhood promise and use nuclear weapons to blow up our family? Trying to rationalize her behavior, I need to get more information. I knew it would hurt, but I need answers to some very important questions. 1. Why? Including how it started, 2. Why did it take so long, especially after the sale of the company? 3. Is it because she loves him? Having decided this, I realized that I had to be honest at least. But how would I know? She successfully kept me in the dark all this time, playing me like a fool, and I trusted her completely. We need to talk, but first I need information. Where to start, I could contact Grant, but would he be honest? Then the thought of Natalie came to my mind. I would start with her. Her phone number was in Linda's office. Programmed into her office phone it was, and she picked up the phone after the third ring. Hi, Linda. What have you done with Grant? Is he devastated? It's not Linda. Oh shit, John. She finished the call. I called back immediately. Her phone was busy. I left it for a minute, then tried again. This time she picked up the phone on the 6th. I'm sorry, John, I needed a minute. Linda went shopping with Sophie, so I think she missed your call on her cell phone. Sorry, you're right, I am. Don't worry. I already know about her and Grant. I called you because I need answers to a couple of questions, or rather 3. Shouldn't you ask Linda? Since it turns out that I've been kept in the dark for years, how can I trust what she's going to tell me now? But if we have any future, I need to know that she's telling me the truth now. I'm not sure I can help you, she said hesitantly. The only other person is Grant, and I'm not sure he's going to tell me the truth. And even if he did, I'm not sure I'd be able to hold myself together with him long enough to satisfy my curiosity. I realized that my voice was harsh, so I softened it to continue. Please, I thought you were her friend, and I was hoping that you would help her save her marriage. Oh my God, no, Natalie screamed, then calmed down and added in a quieter voice. Don't say that, please. You can't ruin your marriage because of this. You shouldn't. I know she loves you more than anything in the world. I'm sorry, but from where I'm sitting right now, it's hard to believe. Yes, probably, especially if you just found out about it. I heard another phone ring on her side. Wait a minute, let me answer. I sat and listened to her answer a call that must have been her cell phone. Hi, Linda. Pause. John called. I said that. I thought about what I needed. She didn't finish. Linda must have interrupted. Yes, he's on the other line now. There's an even longer pause. So I understand he wants me to help him gain trust in you. She paused for a few seconds. Okay, I'll do what I can. While... I'm sorry, it was Linda, but I think you heard? Yes. I decided to see what she was getting at. You said you wanted answers. She also wants me to be honest and tell you what I know. First of all, when did it start? She confirmed Linda's words that she was sure something had happened on the day of her promotion. I'm not sure you can answer the next question. I paused to carefully formulate the question. I know they're lovers, but are they in love? They were very secretive. I'm sure no one else knows, just me, Grant, Linda, and now you. They don't act like lovers. In fact, I'm not even sure she likes him. He's my brother, and I don't find him particularly cute. She paused as if debating whether to speak further. That doesn't answer my question. I have a feeling that he loves Linda, as much as he is capable of loving. She lasted much longer than everyone else. As a woman, I think she must have some feelings for him in order to continue this for so long. I know she didn't want to give up on him. I felt my heart stop. That's what I was afraid of. That's what I thought. I couldn't figure out why this was going on after they no longer worked together. You need to talk to Linda about this. Does he want her? I was afraid of the answer, but I had to ask, if I kick her out, will he accept her? No, don't. She loves you, her children. She'll die if she loses you because of this. I just know it. It may not be my choice. Even for me, it sounded sad. I may not be able to handle it. Promise me you'll try? Why should I promise you anything? We talked together. I thought we were friends. How could you hide it from me? You let them continue this relationship for so long. How could you do this to me, to us, to our marriage? I was getting frustrated. I needed to end the conversation. When you answered my first call, did you think I was Linda and say that Grant was devastated? I think she came to Grant this morning and told him it was over, that she wouldn't see him anymore. She couldn't do this anymore. She had to choose, and he lost to you. The fact that she came to see him really struck me. I was stunned and angry, so I immediately interrupted the conversation. I resisted the urge to vomit, trying to control my breathing, and I had sickly visions of her in his apartment, in his bed. What did she think she was doing? I was still holding the phone in my hand when it rang. Without thinking, I answered, "John, what happened? You disappeared. You hung up. Please don't do this again. I need to fix everything. Make sure you're okay." "I'm not sure you can do that. You betrayed me almost as much as she did. You and Grant were in league even before we met. Your seduction began from the first day. It seemed strange to me that you paid for her last year at university. He wanted her then, and you contributed to this. You took care of Grant, seducing an impressionable girl, choosing a cheater for your dysfunctional brother." "No, that's not true. She's not a cheater, and she was hired because of her business acumen, abilities, and character. The rest came later. You see, he is not capable of normal relationships, so he gets mistresses, always happily married women, those who will lose too much if they complicate his life when he is done with it, which he invariably did. But," and again, the reluctance to continue, "but Linda was different. She's special, but you know that. She separates everything. That's why our business was so successful under her. Why didn't you know anything? Why did Grant completely ignore your relationship with Linda? They were separate. She kept them that way. Each of you was isolated from the other. You've given me a lot of information. I won't thank you because I'm too angry and I won't do it. I feel like an idiot, a cuckold. She was my wife. I loved her more than anything in the world except our children. And I don't see how we can get through this." "John, please," Natalie interrupted me. "Don't think like that. Maybe I'll come to you. We can discuss everything properly and I can help. After Grant, you're the last person I want to see," I growled. "Linda and Sophie will be here soon. I need to gather my strength for the sake of the children and then discuss everything with Linda again. See if I can live the rest of my life with a cheater." "Stop it, stop it." Natalie was getting angry. "Don't call her that, please. Let her explain everything. Give her a chance, I beg you. I know what it's like, but please don't think of her like that." I said everything I wanted to say to her, so I remained silent. "After what I've done to you, I can't ask you to make me a promise, but I beg you to be kind to her, to be the husband you've always been to her, the man she's genuinely loved since the moment you first met. So few people know about the two of them that your reputation will be safe, no matter what the outcome. Just give her a chance." "I'll talk to her, but I don't promise anything. It all depends on her. She has to convince me." I almost finished the conversation, then added, "But as far as I can tell, she's been a paid cheater ever since you offered her this promotion. That's the only conclusion I can draw. She's not—" I heard enough, so I ended the conversation. This time, Natalie was smart enough not to call back. When the children had gone to their rooms, Linda came and sat down with me. "Natalie called me." "I know, I heard." "No, she talked to me after you called." She looked close to tears as she spoke. She was upset. "I never knew her to be like that. You must have hit a nerve or something." "What did she say?" "That I should tell you everything, be truthful, answer your questions, that you are very upset and that it's on me. Well, on the three of us, mostly on me, but also on her and Grant." I noticed a tear roll down her cheek. "I want to know the truth. I had 3 questions that I needed to ask her to check your answers, but in talking to her, I had a 4th question." "Why did you need to check? I've always been honest." "No, I wasn't. Isn't that right? I am." Her gaze shifted to the floor and her head dropped as she realized what she was saying. "You've been lying secretly for so long. How can I trust you to tell me the truth now, especially if you know that our marriage is in danger? I'm making it clear to you that lying is bound to end it. It's on your conscience. This whole situation was created by you, and you are the only one who caused it. And even worse, you always knew about my oath, about my promise to myself, and yet you betrayed me. Only you have a chance to convince me not to destroy the family that I cherish above all else. And believe me, this is a very small chance, very small." She was sobbing. The realization of what she had done seemed to finally dawn on her. I decided to hit her harder and added, "You have to convince me why I have to keep living with a paid cheater." She jerked her head up, and before I could react, she jumped up to me and slapped me hard in the face. Then, without finishing, she collapsed on the floor at my feet and whispered, "But that's who I am, isn't it?" "You're right. In your eyes, that's exactly what I am, and it's been like that for a long time. Oh, John, what have I done? All you've ever done is love me and—" Unable to continue, Linda just collapsed at my feet and lay there. Then I heard her take a deep breath, lift her head, and look at me with eyes full of tears. Ask me anything, I'll answer honestly, I promise. It's going to hurt you, but believe me, it's going to hurt me a lot more to know that. Okay, we can start. First, I want to know why, including how it started. She reached for a napkin from the box on the coffee table. Blowing her nose, she took another deep breath and began. They were so kind to me, gave me a job, trained me. It was my dream. The whole team worked so well together. I became their unofficial leader, the link between staff and management. Natalie and I worked so well together, Grant didn't. From the very first time we met, he had such a look, as if he could look into my soul. At first it was unnerving, but then I just accepted it as his manner. He never gave me cause for concern, did nothing reprehensible. He was distant, withdrawn, often unfriendly, rude even. You know, you met with him. This is not a pretense. This is himself, his personality. Why have an affair with... Please, this is difficult enough. Just let me try to answer your questions. I saw how difficult it was for her, so I waved her on. We continued in the same spirit, Grant, a loner, the undisputed head of the company, the brain of our success, provided Natalie, me, and the team with contracts to work with. He had all the contacts. He understood the market, knew where and when to strike. As you know, they were kind to me when I got pregnant, supported me in both cases, and when I returned, they soon promoted me to a senior position. I was over the moon with happiness. All this study, the skills that I have acquired, have found their application. But still, Grant held in his hands the missing cards, the key to the success or failure of the company. It was a mystery to me, a puzzle that I couldn't solve. He just wouldn't let anyone in yet. Linda took a deep breath and the silent tears began to fall again. They asked me to stay late. They said that there was something important to discuss. They said that I should warn you that I would be late. You probably remember, it was the first time. Natalie led all the conversations. Grant was planning to retire. She said that he was ready to hand over the reins of government, transfer his knowledge and skills to me. She took another napkin and wiped her face and nose. They already had a new contract ready. I was supposed to become a full partner, vice president. This was my chance. I was supposed to become his shadow. He was supposed to give me 2 years of training, and I was supposed to become the new head of the company. You know how ambitious I was then, and still am, to be honest, so of course I was interested. What they offered stunned me, and when I got acquainted with an exceptionally good and profitable offer, Natalie left, leaving me to discuss it with Grant, as she said. Then the conversation began with hints, double meanings, all charged. Does the prospect of being right under me excite you? And everything like that. All this was said with a teasing expression on his face that I hadn't seen before. He told me that he needed you on board because there would be times when I would need to travel with him. Do you remember, I'm sure? I nodded my head. I really remembered. It was only very recently that I realized the meaning. It wasn't until he realized I was hooked that he told me he had a condition. He said it was out of the question, and the next words he said shocked me to the core. I will use you. I wondered if I understood him correctly. Then, before I could react, he kissed me, his tongue deep in my mouth. He reached for my head to hold it in place while he overwhelmed me with the passion of his kiss. I resisted, tried to push him away, but he was too strong. Even caught my hand when I tried to hit him in the face. My body betrayed me. I reacted despite the objections of my rational mind. I felt like I was giving up when he continued to kiss me. Then, when he let me go, I resisted. I said that I was happily married, but he noted that this was a plus for him. He did not want or need a permanent relationship, just someone who would satisfy him. I told him I didn't even like him. In the end, in desperation, I asked why he thought I would agree to such a condition. I remember his words exactly. They defined my life from then until now. Because you are ambitious, you want this job, you need the power that it will give you. Prestige is important to you. The whole package excites you so much, I see it and you know it. Oh, and perhaps most importantly, making love to me will be good. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And to my eternal shame, he was right. He took me then, right there in his office, laid me on his conference table. My mind knew it was wrong, but my body wanted him, so I gave myself to him, and he took full advantage of it. I'm ashamed to say that it was good, but it was so good that then we went to his apartment and continued there. That weekend, I should have discussed the job with you before signing up for it. You and I, made love, I remember. I felt so in love with you. But I decided that I wanted to get the opportunity offered, but not his terms, naively believing that it was enough for me to say no, and he would give in. I came to his office earlier than he asked, told him that what we did on Friday was wrong, and that he couldn't just demand services to satisfy himself. But it was so far away when he interrupted me. He didn't seem to hear me, he just ordered me to undress. I still can't explain why, but I did as he demanded. Then he pulled me over his knee and spanked me, really spanked my naked ass. At first I cried in pain, and then it happened. I went crazy with desire. I begged him to use me. He certainly did it by completely dominating me, and to my shame, I enjoyed every second of it. I know it's going to upset you, but since then it's been like that. I still don't like him, of course I don't like him, but I longed for what he made me feel. He never demanded too much from me. He was never cruel, except for the occasional slap. He never hurt me, never left marks on me. Therefore, I was able to keep these two parts of my life completely separate. I thought it was part of my job, and you didn't need to know. And as far as I was sure, you never would. Seeing that the last part was hard for her, I kept calm, giving her a chance to collect her thoughts. Then she suddenly gasped, "I'm sorry, but I need a break." She managed to get up and stagger to the bathroom downstairs, where I heard her repeatedly burping. When she reappeared, she looked pale and I think scared. She sat down in the chair opposite and looked at me wistfully. "Well, I think I've answered your questions. What will happen next? I have one more question, if I may." "Of course." "On Friday was the last time you were together?" "Yes." She may have seen something on my face, quickly adding, "For making love, but I went there this morning to tell him that I won't be seeing him anymore." "I don't believe you. You must. It's true." "How would I know that?" I kept my voice even. "Can't you see that you've destroyed my faith in you? I know I'll never be able to trust you again, especially when it comes to Grant. Considering the relationship you described, don't you think visiting him was a bit silly? What should I think? That he just accepted your decision, said thank you, and wished you well? No, I think he demanded that you serve him one last time, and you, as usual, were powerless to resist." No, it wasn't like that." She started to get angry, her jaw dropped, and her expression became incredulous. "How can you think that?" "I'll answer you here. I never thought that you would betray our marriage, disrespect me, and lie repeatedly, but you did. So what does it say that you didn't obey him? Now I was on a roll. It was my turn to add a little pain to her to make her feel some of the agony I was experiencing. You told me that you crave his company. You like what he does to you, your body reacts to him. So why not? After all, your husband has been agreeing to this for most of our life together. So why not do it one last time so that you have something to remember about him? A cherished memory. I suppose he even tried to dissuade you from your promise to me that you would end up with him." "No, none of this is true. It didn't happen. You've always been my priority." I started to object, but she continued. "I know it's hard for you to believe, but it's true. My love for you has only grown, not decreased. As my husband, you have always been in the first place for me. Work has provided us with a good lifestyle. You seem to have been happy as the main parent, and you have to believe me when I tell you that you have always made me happy. I am very sorry that in order to satisfy my ambitions, continue my career, and provide us with the lifestyle we enjoyed, I had to betray your trust in me. But understand this. I have never lost respect for you as a man, husband, and lover. I think I showed it every day when I was at home. What I did with Grant was separate. It was a job, my career, my job. It wasn't my life, my love, my family. They were all here, always here with you. We sat looking at each other for a while. I could see the hope in her eyes, her desire that I accept the apology and continue to live as before. But I knew it wasn't that easy, at least not for me. She had time to deal with it. Her eyes were open all the time. But for me, it was new. The shock, the surprise, the terrible realization that part of our life together was not real. It was a lie. She had been deceiving me for years. How could I just forget about it? No, I needed time to think. Deciding that I had heard enough, I was tired, confused. It was already late, and I got up to get ready for bed. Linda broke the silence, pleading in a low voice. "Please let me make amends. Let me prove my loyalty to you and our family. Don't throw me out. We can't ruin our marriage because of this. Please, I'm begging you." I didn't answer anything, just locked myself in and went to my bedroom. When I started to undress, she appeared in the doorway. "Let me—" Her eyes betrayed her need. They shifted from me to what used to be our bed. "No." I turned my back on her and heard a soft sob, but I didn't say anything more. When I finished in the bathroom, she was still standing there, looking even more dreary than the night before, and stayed there until I turned off the bedside lamp. I was awake, but I kept my eyes closed and didn't hear her leave. By that time, I didn't care anymore. Was my mother right when she was so unforgivable and forced my father out of her life? Perhaps she was right. Was my promise to myself unrealistic, naive, childish? Maybe. These thoughts kept spinning in my head. By morning, I was still not close to a firm decision on what to do with Linda. On Sunday, we usually went to bed late, but I'm kidding. Linda and I usually didn't sleep. The children slept. Who knew that it was a tradition to retire? We often made love, warm, soft, languid love together, in the early morning rays, and then I prepared drinks for us while we basked in the rays of dawn. But not today. I was tired, irritable, unhappy, and confused. I lay awake thinking about what I had learned in the last 48 hours. I was trying to decide what to do. Why did I have to keep that childish promise to stay married if the situation turned out that way, considering that Linda told me that with Grant it was only making love? Maybe I should, after all? On the other hand, do I want to stay in such a marriage? Was it worth it? Because the children were a little older than me when my parents separated? Now they are both teenagers, and I suppose it won't be long before they leave home to start their own lives. Will I be able to keep our former happy home for them, for Aaron and Sophie, until then? If I stay or let Linda stay, will I be able to make things work out? At that moment, in the mood I was in, I felt that it was doubtful. I wanted to splash out, hurt Linda and her lover, let them feel the pain I was feeling. Then there was a knock on my bedroom door. I didn't even notice that it was closed. "Mom, Dad, can I come in for a minute?" It was Sophie. If I let her in, she'd see me alone, start asking questions that I didn't want to answer yet. "I'm getting dressed. I'll be there in a minute. Put the kettle on and I'll come down." I heard a quiet, "Okay," did as promised, and she excitedly explained, "My friend Karen invited me to spend the day with her family. Is it okay if I go now? I've already had breakfast, may I?" How could I refuse? Their lives must go on despite my problems. Karen lived just around the corner, but I still offered to take her there, but she didn't need me, and she said so. Aaron was in bed until noon, so it was no surprise that Linda woke up next. I was surprised by how she looked. Unlike me, she looked well-rested, even relaxed. "Where's Sophie? Is she not in her room?" "It doesn't matter to you, I've dealt with her." Then, as if by the way, he added, "She's with Karen for the whole day." "And so we will continue?" I lowered my head as she continued. "Please, John, don't shut me down. I want to help, I really do. I was wondering if counseling would help us. I'll do everything to get us back to what we were." It surprised me. Not the consultation, but the fact that she brought it up so early. Didn't she realize that I was devastated and needed time? Instinctively, I looked up at her. She had her hand on her hip, standing close to the dining table, and was looking at me. "My God, John, you look terrible. Have you been awake?" Her expression was now concerned. "No, of course you weren't sleeping, you couldn't. What have I done to you?" When she said that, she reached out to hold my head to her, as she usually did if I was sick or upset. Her touch pushed me away, and I quickly pulled away, getting to my feet. Now her face expressed only shock, and maybe disappointment. Without saying a word, I went to the shower, which I missed, hurrying downstairs to Sophie. I felt a little better. I was better prepared for this day, but who was I kidding? Dealing with Linda would not be easy, but it had to be done. She was sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee when I arrived. She poured me a cup, smiled at me when I took it, and sat down opposite her. "Thank you." I looked into her eyes, and despite the first impression, I realized that there was not the cheerfulness in her eyes that she had initially hoped for. There was sadness and, I think, an element of fear. My promise, a promise I made many years ago. I'll do it. I will not break up my family, and certainly not because of making love. Hope flashed in her eyes. "I'm not happy about it, but you have to admit that when I didn't know that you were making love to your boss, it didn't affect us in any way. You've rarely, if ever, turned me down, so it seems like the problem is mine alone. I need to get used to the idea. It will take time for my anger to fade, if at all, so in the end, whether you decide to stay will depend on you and will be solely your decision." "John, Please let me finish. There are conditions. Things that you might not like, conditions that I must insist on if we want to live here together. Anything. I will do anything for our family, especially if I can stay married to you. I love you so much that it hurts me. I know what I've done to you, and I have to fix it. Let's hope that this will be enough. I watched her expression turn concerned as I laid out my terms. We must act as one in front of the children, work together, as we have always done. It's easy, I agree. I need to be away from you for a while. Well, I mean not to be husband and wife, so you'll sleep in the guest room for now. No, please, how can I? Seeing my determined expression, she retreated. Okay, I'll do it for now. But I want you to know that in order to make amends, I need to be in your bed. So please don't leave me for long. My offer is limited in time. I will stay with you until both children become adults. As soon as they leave the house, everything will be over. The way I feel at the moment, I'll probably divorce you then. We could rebuild our relationship, of course, and stay together. Or maybe you don't want to stay, but that would depend on you. No, you are welcome. I'm sure I'll just die if you leave me. I promise to work hard to earn your trust, because I know that you still love me. You have to try hard to give me this chance. I believe in you and your love for me. I always have and always will. After a pause to digest what she said, I continued. Finally, you will no longer have any contact with Grant. None at all. It's easy, I told you I was done with him. But what about Natalie? She's my best friend, isn't she? I would like to say that there is no contact with her, but you need a friend. And I think she understands the consequences of any further betrayal. And we tried to establish a relationship. My anger and tension in our relationship gradually eased. Linda made sure that I had no reason to doubt her. And when, about 2 months later, I allowed her to return to my bed, she did her best to help me forget her indiscretion. I have no doubt that Natalie kept her informed of how Grant was doing, but his name was never mentioned to me again. Linda must have the last word. The 8 weeks when I was forbidden to sleep with my husband were the longest in my life. I longed for his touch, cried in my sleep every night when I was alone. I would wake up early in the morning and sneak into his room to watch him sleep, listen to his breathing, and enjoy every moment spent with him. In the beginning, I saw how unhappy he was every day. He masked it well and hid it well enough from the children. He never wavered in his devotion to them. He kept me at a distance and was at first just polite to me, but gradually softened in his communication with me when I sought to regain his trust.